an athlete isn't a person. Do you know what I mean? There's such a difference between the two. And to me, it's about the feeling and the knowing that I can feel things.
For me, after say maybe a competition hasn't gone so well, the first thought would be negative. Then once I sit back, I'm very good now at looking back at it and finding all the positive out of it and just bring it on to the next one.
Welcome to the Human or Athlete podcast, where this week we're joined by Morgan Lake and Joe Fuggle for a short yet super interesting conversation. Morgan is a Team GB heptathlete and high jumper. Super decorated as a youngster, winning multiple golds at the World Champs for heptathlon and high jump, as well as at the senior level winning silver at the Commonwealth Games and the Athletics World Cup, and also making it to the Tokyo 2020/21 Olympic Games finals in the high jump as well. Joe is a former 400-meter hurdler for Team GB and is now also the founder of The Athlete Place, a really unique platform supporting athletics athletes and also their parents. The parents being the one to physically take everyone everywhere, support their athletes financially as well as also emotionally, but who's supporting them. It's a topic we'll cover a little bit, a couple episodes down the line, and go a little bit deeper onto The Athlete Place as its importance and why it's there. But make sure to go check it out, The Athlete Place. But back to this conversation, it's a really cool conversation as we break down Morgan's beliefs and what success is, and for her, how important authenticity is, how working with her body and mind is going to get her to where she wants, not fighting against it all the time. We really stress the importance of journaling, visualization, but always coming back to, if we're going to balance both performance and well-being, if we're going to balance who we are with what we have to do as an athlete and our commitments and our expectations of high levels of performance, then we've got to go back to trusting ourselves. And to trust ourselves performance, that means putting in the hard work, and to trust ourselves as humans, because we know what's best for us, both mentally and physically, a lot of the time. But before you start the episode, we have created Human or Athlete Retreats, a direct space and approach amongst many different methods to balance both performance and well-being, to grow as both an athlete and as a human, to disconnect from the stress, pressure and expectations that entails of being an athlete, and reconnect with who you are, why you do what you do, what are your purposes again, and how you can sustainably create a method that balances both your mental and physical well-being whilst also performing at the highest level. If you're an individual athlete, group, club, national team, governing body that wants to host your own bespoke retreats, also make sure to get in touch and check us out for all the details on both bespoke ones and our normal retreats on humanorathlete.com. I'm now also doing breathwork for athletes as well. The benefits and the opportunities to improve both performance and well-being, again, are endless and so important. I'll be offering free sessions for the remainder of June, so feel free to get in touch again on the website or on our social media at Human or Athlete. I really hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome back to the Human or Athlete podcast with Morgan and Joe. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Thanks for having
You're
us.
welcome.
We'll start this episode, kind of a new thing we're starting, to get all three of us to slow down, and also highly recommend the watchers, listeners, join in as well with a 2-3 minute, slow the breathing down, get a small meditation type thing, and then we'll ground ourselves into this moment. So if we're okay closing our eyes, the key is going to be to breathe lightly, slowly and deeply. So we're going to do box breath. So it's going to be 5 seconds on the inhale, 5-second hold at the top, 5-second exhale, and then 5-second hold with the exhale, and then same again. And we'll do a couple of rounds of this, and then chill with that.
Nice.
Cool. All right, let's do it. So if we close our eyes, relax, we can feel the ground with our feet. We're going to take an inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale lightly, 3, 4, 5, and hold, 3, 4, 5, inhale, 3, 4, 5, hold, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 3, 4, 5, hold, 3, 4, 5, inhale, 3, 4, 5, hold, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 3, 4, 5, hold. Watch the breath. Breathe lightly, slowly, and deeply. And join me back in the present moment.
Gonna fall asleep, I reckon.
So,
How was that? All good?
Feels good.
Cool.
Let's break down a belief, Morgan.
mhm.
So firstly, we'll start with what is success to you, but as an athlete?
To me personally, or to
So yeah, to you personally.
for me, I think it's just achieving like the goals that I set,
Mm-hmm.
rather than external success. So people could be like, "Oh, that was great, you won that competition," but in my head, I'm like, "But this was my goal
Mm-hmm.
for that competition." So that's
What kind of goals are they? Are they heights or?
usually heights. Yeah.
And so then, if we break that down, then
Mhm.
what's the most important thing required for you to be successful as an athlete?
I think it's changed a lot over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the moment, it's literally just making sure I do everything. I was actually speaking to one of my training partners about this today. It's
Mhm.
like being authentically myself and doing the things that make me happy, the things that I feel good in training, that will bring the big heights. Whereas, so I have a training program, and I'm in a bit of a weird situation, like my coach isn't around at the moment, so we're
Okay.
kind of doing a lot of work on our own. So I have a training program, and one day I'll get to the track and I'll be like, not I'm like, oh, I can't bother to do this. It's more like, my body doesn't need this today.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm like, right, I'm actually gonna do this because this is right for me. And even though that's the program, it's kind of like tuning into myself and knowing myself enough
Mm-hmm.
to know what I should do, kind of thing. And I think just making sure I'm obviously doing the hard work and doing everything right in terms of to get my body right, but then doing the sessions that I know will help me.
I think that's a really difficult balance and conflict that we struggle with, because the idea of our culture is that we have to do perform
more.
do more. It's like, you look at, like I said before, the Kobe Bryants and stuff. It's like, why are you not working 20 hours a day at your craft? And that conflicts directly with resting or listening to your body, and we lose that connection with our body. And so I think that's such a cool insight, is like, if I guess we're working with our bodies instead of fighting it to get the best out of it, do we think we can get more working with the body to achieve obviously what we want to achieve to achieve our goals?
100%.
I think also with like the Kobe and MJ stuff as well,
Mm-hmm.
it's like that was their train of thought that was going to bring them success.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like 100% committed to thinking that was going to bring them success.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're not, like, that makes kind of sense, like that was what they thought was going to help, so it did help. So if you're doing something that you think should help because it helps someone else, that's not actually like down to you. That's what you're doing, something because someone else did it and it brought them success. Whereas if you actually like sit back and think, what's best for me and what do I like 100% believe in, I feel like whatever route that you like truly think is right for you will work.
I like that like, if you, even if it, let's say, okay, if we take something, so let's say you believe in meditating. I believe meditating is going to help me get better as an athlete. There's almost like a placebo effect, it'll straight off that's going to make it work. And then there's obviously the thing that you're opposing, in the idea that the culture is so full of, oh, this is going to work for you, this is going to work for you because this made a couple of people successful. and everyone idolizes that at the moment. It's just like the easy thing to try and do. And that's when we lose ourselves, because we're not doing what you're saying and tuning back into us and stuff, like literally without imitating, going over it over and again. It's the yoga, the meditation stuff that bring you back into you. Do you ever struggle with like this idea that we always have to be on at the time, and 100%. How do we get rest?
100%. Like, if we were chatting about this before, and I think as athletes you have that, you need to be doing you need to work 101% of the time and at 101% intensity, and it's like, it's impossible. We know it's impossible. Like for myself, I worked myself too hard and I burnt out physically and mentally, which led to me taking time out of the sport and trying to find that kind of balance again. And I was thinking, like, when Morgan was answering the question you just asked, it's like, for me, it's about balance. It's about having the balance between achieving success via goals, but also achieving success to you from a more of a mental perspective. And that can be balance, being happy, having time to chill and feeling like you're kind of present. And I think as athletes, it's almost impossible to feel present because you're always thinking, where's the next 1% coming? Where's my next competition? Oh, I have to perform here, there. I have to do everything to the best of my ability. And therefore, switching off is the last thing on your mind, because you have to perform to the best of your ability. You have to impress people, sponsors, fans. You have to build your personal brand. All of these things that are going around your mind, how can you have time to think about switching off? And that's where, especially now in 2022, with so much going on and so much that's gone on, switching off is even more important than it's ever been. And to do that, you have to find what's right for you. And if yoga's right for you, then fine. If reading books is right for you, then fine. But it's kind of about finding that individual thing for you that works, and just keep doing it, because it's going to improve your performance inside and out of the sport.
I think that's what we forget as athletes, in that there's almost like everything's coming from who we are and how we see the world and our energy and everything. And we think everything's just coming off what we put into it and what we get out of it. But there's a lot more factors in that than just turning up every day and doing the work. There's how's your energy that morning? Where's your mind at? What's going on outside of the track? And it's like stuff like that that we forget. And it's almost, I guess a belief that I would then say is like, is that well-being? So your energy levels, your perspective on things, your attitudes, your beliefs, are they the center of your performance in a way, as a perspective on performance and well-being?
Is that like the center, do you think?
That's what do you think? Would
you
agree?
It's a tough question.
Like, is that like the source of your energy to go out and perform and do things?
I guess so, but I think there's also the thing, it's like whatever's going on like at home. So my coach always just says like, whatever's going on at home, good, bad, leave it at the door when you get into the track. So it's kind of like that as well. It's like, obviously if you're happier, if you've got a good energy, that can help. But I also think if you're in potentially like a bad place, it's switching off between, like, I guess, like my sort of psychologist always like the Morgan you and the athlete you, and it's like switching between the two, and it's like you can kind of forget everything that's going on in your personal life, and you can be a different person as an athlete. But then also I'm like, when things are going well and I'm really happy, then I want to bring that into like my athlete person as well. So,
but that's brought up a really interesting thing, because that creates two characters that you have to kind of play and inhibit all the time. And I think it's a difficult thing to balance, and I think just saying, I can switch in out the two sounds remarkably easy, but we all know as athletes, when we're so committed and so prioritizing on being the best, that crosses over into all our lives. And those traits that, again, of obsessiveness, of self-reliance, and again, kind of what your coach is saying, in the avoidance side, we're so good at that. And so then we're praised for being so good at being able to switch off and get into performance mode, right? That's a key sign of avoidance. But then we go home,
the problems are still there,
and we carry on bringing that avoidance into our home life, and not deal with how we feel, not deal with what's going on, not deal with whatever may be. And that's what's really, I think, again, is difficult and not quite understood, in that what's the right way to do it?
100%. And I think like you just said, your coach says to leave your personal problems at the door when you get to training. So why shouldn't it be any different to leave your athlete problems when you get home?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, if these problems are going to affect your training and your athlete persona, then the athlete problems are going to affect your you problems. And then when they affect your you problems, they're going to spiral. And then your next time you go to the track, they've 10x'd.
Exactly.
You get to the track and your head's going like this because of all the problems that you brought back with you. And then they're going to cause new problems. I don't know, problems with loved ones, problems with work, problems with anything, because of this has not been dealt with properly here. And that just goes back to the balance like we spoke about. And it's almost an impossible task, but that shows the importance of trial and error to find the things that work for you and to minimize those kind of risks as much as possible.
Is there anything you both immediately kind of already know you tap into to try and help with that? Or is it a balance you struggle with yourself?
Yeah, I guess it is kind of, I've started doing a lot of like journaling now, and I feel like that's really helped me. Like just getting things down, like say I'm having like, I don't know, problems like training, whatever, I'll kind of write down like, well, how do I describe it? Like before sessions, I like write down my intentions for the session, just so I kind of have like a clear focus of what I'm doing and not to bring in anything that was like happening last session or whatever. And I think just kind of, and then writing down any problems, just like, writing is like a big thing for me at the moment.
It's kind of it. It's getting your thoughts out of your head and onto something, so then you can potentially maintain those thoughts if they're positive or discard them if they're negative. I think that's quite a powerful thing to do.
I think it's a connection to yourself, and I think that's what's great about it, is that when you have to sit back and take a minute to write something out, the first 5 lines might be still the athlete shit that's going on and whatever, and then you write a little bit more and you spend a little bit longer with yourself, and suddenly start maybe more truths come out or everything like that. But it's
warming up.
Exactly, but it's just re-energizing that connection between you and what you're doing, and that's, I guess, that connection, like we said, is the one that's being disturbed all the time and forgotten about, and it's that thing of the athlete persona. That's a big, maybe not issue, but it's something that we become super attached to. Have you ever struggled with that?
Yeah, definitely. I see myself as like the athlete person pretty much all the time, especially in season. So from like April till September, like that is literally just me as an athlete.
And not counting indoors as well. Yeah,
exactly. It's like you just always thinking. So say my friends are just like, oh, do you want to do something like next week? I'm like, well, I've got competition in 2 weeks, so I have to like do this and this, like, and it's very hard to kind of switch on and off from it. Like even if I do then go out and see my friends, like I'll enjoy the moment, but then in the back of my head I'm like, I need to get back early because I've got training tomorrow and then I've got competition next. Like I'm always in that athlete mode, and I do find it quite hard to kind of like go between the two. And even so, I got injured in Tokyo, which was like August, so I didn't do the rest of the season, but I went on holiday in September and stuff. And even like being on holiday, I found it really hard to relax. I felt like I hadn't like earned the holiday, because I was like, well, I didn't perform well enough this season to be enjoying myself. Like I need to go back into training. It's like not even any time was allowed to just like go and relax.
It's a long time to be at that levels of stress and pressure.
Have you always felt like that?
Yeah, I think because I've like been like an athlete from such a young age, like I think I've just always, I think I've got better now, not that it's like great, but I think when I was younger it was even more intense, because like my dad was my coach as well, so even when we got home everything was always about sport, like there was never really a switch off. So yeah.
What has driven you, especially at a young age, and I guess you've more thought about it more now, but what drove you to push yourself under to that level of pressure and expectation of yourself?
I don't know, I wouldn't even say it was like a pressure, but yeah, it was definitely an expectation. It was more just like, I think I was just so strong, like this is what I want to do, so I didn't care about anything else. It was like everything else was kind of like a distraction. Whereas now I'm like, right, okay, I've been doing this for so long now. Like, I know what to do. Like, I know how to do it. And I know I can like enjoy like both aspects. But as a kid, I was like, this is what I want to do, so nothing else really mattered to me.
But if you're still struggling with that last year, and then you look at obviously the expectation you put on yourself to achieve, and then you can't even enjoy a holiday. It just like, it feels like the athlete you is just like stamping on any part of you that wants to authentically enjoy yourself and go, like you said, go back to authentically being myself and enjoying what I do. It's I find it for me as well, it's really suffocating. It's quite a strong word, but I think it just ekes into everything you do. And then you end up, even some ways, like Joe, you kind of said, you lose a little bit of the love for what you do.
100%.
When that wasn't, when that had nothing to do with what actually has changed. It's just this idea of who you are and what you have to do within the sport.
Definitely. I think as well, it kind of comes down to, I'm sure we've all heard before, it's like, if you have a passion and if you do that passion, and then when you start getting paid for that passion, the chance of you burning out doing that same thing or losing the enjoyment for that thing goes down over time a lot more than it would if you carried on doing it as like a side thing or something you weren't getting paid, because you're doing it because you love it. But that's the difficulty of being an athlete, and with the identity part of it, is that if you're so switched on and you're so driven with being an athlete and achieving these external goals that you're essentially validating yourself on these external goals, these new heights or these medals, then how can you validate yourself without that? How can you find ways to be like, I'm happy with how I'm doing and how I am as a person without achieving these goals or without these things, and trying to enjoy the process as much as you can without even thinking about the external kind of validations that come with it?
Well, this is what's difficult when things don't go your way, or you have like an injury, and it's kind of, yes, you could say, oh yeah, I could have done this better to prepare, but it's also out of your control a lot of the time. And so it's then like, how do you then deal with that? Because that one's, if you've put your life and everything into this, it's also out of your control. And I think Johnny Wilkinson once, I think, said it, obviously the rugby guy, and it was like, we lose the freedom we had as a child or as a younger player of the sport that was the freedom for what we did. And when we have the money, when we have the identity of, this is what my expectations are, this is the outcome, this is the numbers, we lose that freedom. And then all these blocks come in between and the freedom, and it's the blocks of, oh, this is what I have to achieve, this is what I have to achieve, and that's what's so difficult.
And you say like you lose that freedom, but I think it's more a fact that it's always there, it just gets blocked by other things. So those other things that come into your mind or whatnot essentially just get in the way of it, and you need to find the ways of just getting it out of the way so that these things are just there again, so you can find that freedom, you can find that flow and enjoyment of doing things, just like the kid we once were when we first started our sports, and why we fell in love with it in the first place.
If that's your idea of success, of being authentically yourself, is this something that's like, how do you get those blocks out? What's your approach to this if that's your goal of success?
I think for me it's literally just, so I think back at the competitions that have gone probably best for me, and they're the ones that I've literally like enjoyed the most and just felt like really free, but that comes from like being very confident in what I've done before. Like I know I've put the work in, I know I've like, even if I haven't, so I get the training program, I know if I do like 80% of the program, it's going to be more beneficial than me doing 100% of the program and being hurt and doing like and doing things that aren't like 100%. So I think I've been training for so many years, I don't need to push myself to the extreme every single year. I think that's also coming from like going from heptathlon to high jump. I've gone from 7 events to 1 event. I'm like, I don't need to put as much of the physical work in. And with high jump, it's a very mental game as well. Like you literally have a bar in front of you. So say the bar's like 180, I can gap it, goes to 190 in my head. I'm like, oh my god, it's 190. and then I jump way worse into 180. So it's like, for me, if I'm just like confident and happy, that's how things go.
How do you be confident and happy though for you?
Again, yeah, just literally just like from the proof from training. Proof's probably not the best word, but like knowing trust, like knowing I put in all the work and I can just trust that I know exactly what to do. Do a lot of visualization as well, which like really, really helps me. Like when I was injured, I didn't jump for like pretty much a year. Went back to jumping again, and I was like, it literally felt like I hadn't not jumped because I'd just gone over it so many times in my head, and I think that brings a lot of I feel like it's...
Was there something about like the mind doesn't know the difference between what's real in your head and what you're actually doing? Yeah. So by seeing things and visualizing them, your mind thinks it's just the same thing, it's activating the same things that you would when you're actually doing it, which is really cool. I guess what came to my mind is that when you're going through this journey and the outcomes are the outcomes, and it's going back to that cliche thing of enjoying what you're doing, and it's like dream as big as you want. Yeah. Like even if it is to win the next 3 Olympic golds and be the greatest high jumper ever, great. But if you have like, I guess, the outcomes along the way, or if you don't achieve that, that's what you have to deal with. Yeah. Because not everything realistically is a fairy tale. Yeah. What does success feel like when you do get it though?
It's just the best feeling, to be honest.
The best feeling.
Yeah, I think that's kind of back to what you were saying earlier. Like you reach a goal and then you straight onto the next goals like straight away, and it's like looking back and thinking actually just being like proud of what you've achieved. I think that also for me, after like say maybe a competition hasn't gone so well, the first thought would be negative, but then once I like sit back, like I'm very good now at looking back at it and finding all the positive out of it and just bring it on to the next one. That's probably the main difference between myself as an athlete now and a few years ago. It's like actually I try and like get all the positives out of every single competition, like as much as I can. So it's finding like small successes in pretty much every competition.
That's probably more important as critics as we all are, to reflect on the things that went well. Yeah. And because I know we're all going to be like, oh, I may have done 98% perfectly, I may have won, but my expectation was to do this. So I think maybe the reflection on what we have done well, or what we've grown in, what we've progressed with, is really important. Who are you behind the athlete then? Who is it? I know obviously we're pretty much starting the season or whatnot, so we've got a good time before you go full athlete mode. Who are you behind that?
I think athlete's not like the first, obviously it's what I do, but it's not who I think of myself like first and foremost, I guess. I think just trying to be like a good person and like a good friend, a good like family, I try and like be a good person, like mostly, to be honest, and then just kind of like enjoying life.
Last couple of questions, what is, when you have that, obviously be a good person, stuff like that, and you have a platform as an athlete, what are you trying to give to the world that can, to make it, I guess, a better place, as cliche?
I think using my platform is like super important. I think like especially with social media, that you didn't like as a young athlete, I didn't have access to kind of like older athletes that I was looking up to, so I try and always like talk to younger athletes if they message me and like give them a bit of advice. So I try not to do it too much, because like someone would like send me a video of them jumping and be like, what can I correct? I'm like, I'm not your coach, like I don't really want to give you that kind of advice. But advice like in the sport, I think the biggest thing I always tell people is do all the different events rather than just one, and also just like have fun and enjoy it. Like, I think if you're stressed out as a little kid, that's just really not the right way to be.
Amazing. Last question that we always ask for both of you: what makes you more than a high jumper or than an athlete? What makes you human?
I think for me it's about kind of emotions, because a person, to me, has emotions and feelings, and they cry and they get angry. And an athlete isn't a person. Do you know what I mean? There's such a difference between the two. And to me, it's about the feeling and the knowing that I can feel things. Whereas being an athlete, it's how quickly you can get from A to B, or how high can you jump, or what external validation through accomplishment can you get. Whereas as a person, it's about feeling things.
Gonna kind of steal that one as well. It's like, exactly. Athletes is literally just being like this. I get it to a point, because you're like, right, you have this like talent and you want to get the most out of it and train so hard that you get like the most out of your talents and everything, and working hard and achieving something. Then also being a person is kind of like, just like the emotions, like enjoying life and just kind of, just enjoying everything about life really, rather than just one specific goal and not really think about anything else.
Amazing. Love it. Thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you. That was good fun.
Great. Sweet. Done, guys.